Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Thank you very much for tuning in, I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. But aside from that, let's get into the main topic for today's video. I don't know if I have anything super special to tell you before we talk about plants. So what we're going to be talking about today is whether you should get a pressurized CO2 system. And the first question that most people are going to ask, particularly those who are watching these type of videos, is what am I talking about? What is a pressurized CO2 system? So to start off, we'll just run you through this one that I have here and show you basically what I'm talking about and how it works. So here we have our system. This is I believe it's 5 kg bottle of, so this is like compressed CO2 in here. And then what it does is it comes out of the bottle and then it goes along. And then this, I unplugged it because where it is normally kept, I can't show you. But this would normally go to the tank. And then this is going to be like what we used to, it's a regulator, so that's obviously how we regulate the flow of CO2. And so basically what this whole system does is it will add additional CO2 to the aquarium. And then as we all know, for photosynthesis to happen, CO2 is pulled in by the plants to fuel their growth, and they're going to output oxygen. So basically what this does is this offers another option, or another, how do we explain it? It increases the amount of CO2 in the water, which is going to be good for the plants and make them grow faster. The only problem with this system is everything else has to be balanced at that same level, because if the plants you have all the CO2 available but not enough, say, light, then they're not going to be able to grow. So having this balanced with all the other stuff is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, quickly, just for the rest of the video, I'm just going to do a bit of a store tour while I talk, because that's kind of the end of my visual aids portion. So I'm just going to walk around the shop while I talk over it. So the number one question I always ask for people who are asking whether a pressurized CO2 system is going to be a worthwhile investment and something that they should add, I always tell people the first thing to think about is, what are you looking to get out of your aquarium? Because I think that's something we don't massively talk about within the hobby. Is I think there's a lot of people who are just like fish people, like fish first, and then kind of keep plants incidentally. And that's definitely the category that I would put myself in. Like, I'm very much a fish person, and then plants is like, whatever. So for me, if I wasn't doing this for a job and like having the shop and everything, I wouldn't probably be doing many plants and, you know, putting a lot of effort into it. It would more just be like I'm sure I'd chuck stuff in tanks and like grow stuff in that, but it wouldn't be as much of a focus. And in that situation, I wouldn't want to be investing in a CO2 system with that, because I'm not going to get much enjoyment out of it, or it's not going to add much to my hobby, if that makes sense. Because for me, it's not something I'm going to be massively interested in. And I think that's a problem that we don't necessarily think of enough. It's like, oh, the next step is like, I have plants, the plants need to be better, how can I make it better? And maybe you don't want to make it better. Of course, that's going to limit you in the types of plants you can keep and how you keep them, etc. But if that's not your thing, don't worry about it. A lot of the time, people will be happy as Larry just keeping their low-tech aquariums, and that's fine. But with all that being said, say we've got to that position and we've already decided, right, this is the route we want to go. How will we go about achieving this end goal of having this planted aquarium with the pressurized CO2 injection? So the main thing I'm going to say is, I kind of touched on it before, but I don't want people to go into it with the assumption that adding CO2 alone is going to be enough to kind of bring everything back to life or accelerate everything. Because the three things you do need to balance is like available nutrients, so that's via substrate, enrichment, aquasoil, root tabs, that kind of thing, depending on the type of plant. Some might need it. The other option is going to be through liquid fertilizers being put into the water The next thing is going to be available light. So if you don't have enough light, the plants aren't really going to be able to make enough use of any CO2 injection that you might do, and it kind of defeats the point, of course. So I would always suggest balancing these three is the most crucial part. And the problem is CO2 you can't really adjust without doing a CO2 system. I know there is a lot of things like products out there by like API and Ssytem and that, which is like branded as liquid CO2 that you just put in the water and then it increases the CO2 with this liquid. And unfortunately that's not really true. Unfortunately, it doesn't act as a liquid CO2 sort of substitute as the way it's kind of presented, unfortunately. The thing with it is from my understanding, it's a bit hard to get information on this kind of topic. Obviously, it's all like proprietary, like trade secrets, so they don't want to tell anyone what's in it, of course. But from what I can gather, the way it works is that, so it's an algicide, it will kill algae, which is what a very common use of it is. If you've got blackbeard algae or something, you chuck it in and it will kill it. So the way I understand it is the way it works is it acts on any algae, like microalgae that's growing on the leaves, and it doesn't increase the amount of CO2 in the water, but it increases the way or the ability for the leaves to take up what available CO2 is there. So that's why the likes of Ssytem and that say that you can use it in conjunction with pressurized CO2, because you can get both, sort of the best of both worlds with that. And so, unfortunately, this would not be a suitable solution for like completely increasing the amount of CO2 in the water and giving you the same effects as like a CO2 injection. So realistically, the only real way to do it is going to be with a pressurized CO2 system like we've shown you earlier. In New Zealand, there's not a lot of options. We've only got the Co2 Aquarium brand, which is done by the guys at the Aquascape shop, I believe it is. And I don't know, I think we do have the special JBL one, but that's using the disposable cylinders, which obviously it's 2023, we don't need to be using disposable CO2 cylinders. Come on. With the other ones attached to the refillable ones, which is obviously much better. The only other one is I did hear a rumor that who is it? I think Co2 Supermarket and Sarah regulators are going to be coming at some point, but I have no idea if that's true or not. Time will tell. You know, I've heard many things. Not all of them are true, so take that with a grain of salt, but that's as far as the regulators go. And you'll want to get a refillable bottle. The best thing about a refillable bottle is obviously it's a lot cheaper. Like a fill for me is maybe around $50 on that cylinder I showed you before. And on the cherry barb tank that I show you all the time, it'll maybe last about 9 months, maybe a little bit longer before it needs refilling. And by selling the cuttings of the plants that are obviously way happier, you will make up any money you spend on buying CO2. And obviously once you have the bottle, you can just refill and refill. You do need to get them certified, but that's only like every 6 years, I think it is, and it's very cheap. So I would definitely recommend that. I definitely wouldn't recommend using disposable cylinders. It's crazy, shall we say, to be using disposable stuff like that in this day and age. So yeah, those would be my options I'd suggest. But I think it is definitely a really good idea. If you're wanting to get a really lush, kind of dense look, it is definitely doable with low-tech plants, but you'll be much more efficient doing it with high-tech plants or low-tech plants in a high-tech environment. Like the first CO2 injected tank I had was actually that cherry barb tank, because I was actually not really a plant guy, like I said. So when I opened the shop, I did end up getting CO2 set up on that tank, and it's honestly night and day. Like I had planted tanks before, but low-tech planted tanks. So the difference between them and a CO2 injected tank is night and day. If you are into your plants, if you're wanting to grow nice plants, if you're wanting to grow lots of plants, if you're wanting them to grow fast, grow dense, all that kind of thing, there is simply no substitute. It is honestly fantastic stuff. This video isn't designed to I'm not going to go into the weeds of like pH drop and all this kind of stuff, because that's probably going to be another video. My CO2 cylinder is actually empty, so I can't go through all that now. I'll go through it once I get it refilled. But this video is kind of, I guess, designed to give you guys some things to think about if it's something that you're looking at maybe investing in. So I hope that's given you guys a bit of maybe some food for thought, or a bit of somewhere to start looking, at least if you're looking at maybe adding a pressurized CO2 system or setting up a tank specifically for one, about what you might want to consider and how it might all work for you. So yeah, thank you very much all for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've got some useful stuff out of it. But aside from that, that's all I had really. So make sure to like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.